Hey Mijo. So yeah, this video is for you and any other people that want to learn more of what AWS and understand like what Lightsail is in a sense. So going, based off of AWS, AWS, they provide a lot of things where you can either run your own resources or you can have AWS run its own resources. So today what I'm going to go as an analogy is kind of just going over what Lightsail is and what is the benefit of using Lightsail and like what's a service as far as what it is and what does AWS provide, and just kind of give you an idea like how you can use Lightsail just to kind of start off on some things and just kind of play with it and just kind of get your hands on AWS, because one of the things is like you don't want to feel like, oh my gosh, like I want to split up things because you want to spend a lot of money, but AWS is pretty good on that, where they really provide like free things and free tiered items that you can use without feeling like you're gonna spend a lot of money. So with this being said, here let's go look at Lightsail, and then we'll come back to this page here and just kind of do an analogy of this and how Lightsail differs from actually you running stuff on your own, VPC and things like that. So if we go over here to the AWS dashboard here, one of the things we're going to do is we're going to type in Lightsail at the very top, and it would help if I know how to spell Lightsail first. Right here. So what is Lightsail? Lightsail is basically a service that AWS provides where you can kind of like launch computers. And with this being said is that you don't have to worry about setting up like what they call like the VPCs and the NACLs, the subnets or anything like that. It's kind of like you're kind of good to go, and it's kind of in a sense idiot proof where you just launch stuff and you can play with it right away. So in this example, we're going to launch a real quick machine online, or a VM, or in this case an instance, and we're going to just kind of like touch base on it. We're just going to launch one and we're going to connect to it and just play with it. So what we're going to do right now is, when you're on this page of Lightsail, all we're going to do is first click on create instance. Once you create an instance, the easiest thing we're going to do is literally click on platform, which is to be Linux, WordPress, which is usually defaulted by default, and then from here you don't have to worry about any of these other items. Just make sure you click on the one that says free, like the cheapest one, because that's all you really need for now. You can just leave it as WordPress for now. So all we're really going to do is launch something really quick. So all we're going to do real quick is just do create instance, and meanwhile it's doing this, it's going to load up. Perfect. Now when we see it's in a pending state. This means that the instance that's going to run this already pre-configured software on the Linux machine, it's going to be ready in a bit. Now you might be wondering, okay, what is WordPress? WordPress is kind of like a blog site where you can just kind of go there and just have nice things on there, like you say, hey, I want a blog, or I want a store, or some other things like that, where it's just pretty simple. You can go in, make some simple modifications, upload pictures, set up your own blog or whatever. It's pretty straightforward, kind of like your website in a sense. And think of it kind of like maybe kind of old school stuff. Here's like MySpace, like you go in there and make some changes and make yourself a cool blog, So meantime, while it's loading up, is okay, this is cool and all, but what's going on in the back end, So usually with AWS, and I'm just kind of talking in general sense, is you have to go in and create a VPC. And the best way to see it is like a VPC is basically a city, right? And when you have a city, you have these little roads, and these roads are basically the network connections. And the best way to say is like when you set up a VPC, you have to set up your what they call subnets. And subnets is basically saying, hey, I want to set up the streets. I want to set up the configurations, how things are being routed, how things are reconnected. Like, hey, how do I connect the park to the police station, or how do I, connect the police station to the hospital? And essentially, the VPC is kind of holds it all together. And once you start configuring the city itself, where you actually start manipulating like what IP addresses are, subnets and NACLs and security groups, that's where you actually manually do it. Now with Lightsail, it's just like this picture. You don't have to do anything. It sets it up for you automatically. Instead of being in one big old city, it just literally kind of like Sims. You just say, you open it up and you say, hey, I'm gonna drop these I want to drop a police station, I want to drop in a school, a post office, and it does everything for you in a sense. So you don't have to worry about this. It is a cost of a premium a little bit, but if you're on a free tier, it doesn't matter. Like, it's set up for you automatically. So we'll go more in depth into this a little bit later, but this is just kind of like a quick understanding of like how Lightsail is automatically set up for you. Now, if we go back over here and we click on WordPress right here, we're going to see the information about the WordPress. Now, and at this point, okay, I launched a computer instance online. Okay, what the heck do I do with it? Good question. Now, what you really are going to do here is you're going to grab something called the public IP address right here. Once you grab it, just make sure you press copy. Once you copy it, go over to a new tab. Paste in the IP address. Give it a second. Unable to connect. That's most likely because it's still booting up. So you have to understand that when you launch these instances, these prefabbed instances, it takes a while for it to load, because what happens is that you launch an instance, it loads up in AWS and infrastructure. Once it loads up, it actually has to configure itself. So it'll launch, and then from there it'll start installing software or applications. Like, hey, it's starting WordPress, and then it'll do some self-configuration to make sure it's up and running. So like in this case, it looks like it might still be up and running. So let's try this one more time, refreshing. There we go. So you might get this on your browser. It just says like HTTPS. You know, there's some configuration that makes it a site unreliable, which is okay because this is the one we just launched. So all we have to do really is here is press advance and accept the risk, because you literally just launched it. It's okay for now, but here you go. So you see this hello world here? So this is literally the instance that you just launched. So you can play around with it, make some comments, do whatever you want, you know. But essentially what Lightsail is that it has pre-configured machines that have some pre-configured software that automatically launches for you. And this is one of the things that Amazon does, and it provides you where some of this stuff is already ready for you. And this is more stuff like people just want to make a quick website, or kind of want to play around with things. This is like the perfect place to start with, especially if you're new to AWS, where you just want to look at things, you know. And you might say, okay, cool, I see the website, but how do I log in? Like, how can I get access to things, you know? So one of the things you can do is actually in Lightsail, which is one of the things why I wanted to show you first, was if we go back to here to Lightsail, what you can do actually is, if you were to go back to right here, Lightsail itself, and you see the instances right here, if you see this little square dot right here, this is actually the Linux terminal. So like, for example, if I want to go in and play with Linux and things like that, this is where you can do it. So for example, if I were to click on this, it probably didn't show up here. Give me a second. New tab. Here you go. Perfect. Right here, bam, I'm in it. So I'm actually inside the machine, and at this point I can just go in and just run simple commands like, hey, who am I? I'm Benami. Cool. You can look at the date. Just type in date. Perfect. Tells you the time. Or you want to be fancy, type in the calendar. Perfect. Now you might be saying, okay, why do I need to do this? Well, Benami does something where when you launch this instance, it has a password, so you can actually go in and modify your blog, right? So at this point, what you can easily do is that they would actually have files being created. So when you log in, you're logged in into your main folder, and from your main folder, you can look at files, and that's something easy that can be done by running ls. And from here, you can see files, and then from there, you can see something that says Benami application password and Benami credentials. So in this case, we want to take a look at it. So all you have to do is write cat, like cat and hat, and Benami underscore application underscore password. And there's your password right there. So what you can do is actually highlight this, right click it, and press copy. When you get these credentials, you can actually log in and actually start manipulating these things. So if I were to here, go up here at the browser and type in login, we'll get a prompt. All we have to do is type in user and paste your password. Yeah, I'm not gonna save it. Bam, here you go. They're actually logged in as admin, and from here you can just kind of go in and just play with it, you know. Like for example, one of the main things is like, hey, I want to change the font or change the, you know, the front page or whatever, you know, my sample page. So what I'll do is I'll go to pages. Actually, let's go to posts. Much easier because this is the first post that's up here. So I'll say, hey, let's look at it. I'll click on Hello World. I'll load up. And there's a quick tutorial, but we're not going to take too much on this time on this. I'm going to change this, and we're going to type in welcome Monchichi. And then I'm like, oh, te dejo disputado. Yeah, something simple, you know? And at this point, we can save it. We press update. Pretty simple, straightforward. And what we'll do is actually type in the address, IP address again at the very top. Paste it in. And then up. There you go. Welcome, Monchichi. Te dejo disputado. Yeah, so the whole point of this is just kind of show you like how you can play with resources, you know, launch things, and just kind of just familiarize yourself with AWS. And it's something very straightforward, pretty simple, but at this point, you know, the main thing was to show you like how you can easily touch items and start playing with things like the terminal and actually looking at something that you actually launch. Because one of the things that I noticed that online tutorials, they don't really go into depth like this. They don't really talk about things like this, playing around with things, and kind of give you perspective where you can actually touch things and you don't feel like you're gonna be like, I want to spend thousands of dollars on this or waste my money, or accidentally launch something where you'd be wasting about like thousands of dollars and something you don't know, you know. However, with this, it's very controlled. So even if you were to say, for example, they charge your credit card, it's like $350 a month. Right now, I'm about probably being charged maybe 10 cents per minute, not even a minute, probably an hour for the whole month, you know. So this is kind of something where you can work on and just play with, you know, just to get an understanding how AWS and getting kind of working into the working methods of like, what is Linux, what is a website, you know. It's kind of just kind of your stepping stone into AWS in a sense. Yeah, so probably gonna end this video now, and probably maybe about another one, maybe we'll see how this works out. But yeah, this for you, Gina.